Welcome to the Agent of Wealth podcast with Marc Bautis from Bautis Financial. In this podcast, Marc helps guide you towards financial freedom, ensure you never run out of money, and create a balance in life that prioritizes what is most important to you. Join us for this journey as Marc draws from years of expertise and guest experts to solve the multiple wealth building challenges involved in your financial life.
Welcome back to the Agent of Wealth. This is your host, Marc Bautis. Picture this. You're cleaning out your file cabinet, your home office, or you're just trying your best to organize the home, and you come across a slew of your financial documents. You flip through them, you spread them out to view them, and you feel overwhelmed. What do you keep? What do you shred? What can you throw out? It can be hard to remember exactly which documents you should keep on file and for how long. And we see a wide range of behavior. Some people go overboard, keep their documents forever, while others are on the opposite extreme and don't save anything at all. With spring in full swing, many of us are tackling clutter and organizing our lives. So I thought now was the perfect time to cover this topic. Today, we'll break down the ins and outs of financial document management, from records relating to tax and legal matters, to healthcare issues, to assets and liabilities. I'll cover it all. I recommend you grab a pen and paper, or better yet, your phone, to take notes. We also have a checklist that you can use as a resource, which we'll link into the resources section of the show notes. It's also available at bautisfinancial.com/documents. All right, so let's get into it. All right, first, let's talk about the documents that you should save based on the time that they can be kept. And I'll break these up into three categories. So first, we'll talk about documents that you should save for 7 years or longer. Second, we'll talk about documents that you should save for a year. And then third, we'll talk about documents you can save for less than a year. So the ones that fit into this category of 7 years or longer, when it comes to taxes, it's best to keep any tax record for at least 7 years. While the IRS statute of limitations for auditing is 3 years, there are circumstances which they can go back as far as 6 or 7 years. So for example, if you underreported income by 25% or more, some of these statutes of limitations vary state to state. Obviously, the Fed has its own limitations, but state to state limitations can vary. So check with your tax professional if you have specific questions about limitations in your state. Your best bet is to keep your tax returns as long as possible. That way, if you ever face a tax audit, you'll have the information you need on hand. And then you should also consider saving documents that verify the information on your returns for at least 7 years. So this includes W-2s, 1099s, receipts, proof of payments, proof of gifts that you made to children or relatives or others. If you have any receipts related to assets, like receipts for home modeling projects, keep those for as long as you're the owner. Definitely come across a lot of people who are, have had homes for 30, 40, 50 years and are in the process of selling them. And there's usually going to be a capital gain associated with that. So having the receipts for any capital improvement project that they did over their life that they were in the home, it can increase the cost basis of their home, which decreases the amount of capital gains tax that potentially they may owe. So those receipts are definitely good ones to keep, and they're not ones, because they're like home modeling projects, they're not necessarily ones that you'd think of, okay, this is an important financial document that I should keep, but definitely ones that you can keep. And I know I said save your tax returns for as long as possible. There are ways that you can get a transcript of your tax return from the IRS. So, you do have the ability to electronically get a copy. All right, documents that fall into the category of ones that you should keep for 1 year. There are non-tax related documents such as bank statements, credit card statements, investment statements, pay stubs, receipt for large purchases. You want to keep them on hand for a year because you may need them to support any current tax year preparation as proof of income. If you were making a large purchase, or if you're refinancing. The Federal Trade Commission suggests holding on to your paid medical bills for a year before throwing them out, unless you have an unresolved insurance dispute, in which case probably want to keep the medical bills until the dispute is resolved. Medical bills can be confusing, but and that's the reason for keeping them on hand, because you may have to dispute a payment or an error or a bill. So it's definitely a good idea to keep those on hand. Many bank and credit card issuers offer electronic statements, so the chance that you need to keep paper copies on hand are lower, but some people like to keep paper copies of everything. So if you if you don't want to keep them on hand, one of the options is you can opt to scan them to create electronic copies if the credit card company doesn't offer like an electronic statement, and then dispose of the original paper documents. And we'll talk a little bit later about, undergoing this like paper to electronic project. All right, some documents that you may want to keep for less than a year, and that's like a product under warranty, any like insurance claims. Most of your monthly bills, you can discard them after you're paid. If you end up needing to go back to verify anything, especially the more access you have electronically to something like a past bill or a statement or something like that, the less the need is keep the invoice or the bill on file, so you can keep them for a couple months, or some of these you can throw out as soon as you get them. Banks typically don't mail canceled checks back to you anymore, but if yours does, most canceled checks are okay to shred once you verified your bank statement is correct, or that some of them now show up on the bank statement. So it's even better if you can access it electronically. If your canceled check is related to your tax return, then, or like could be like a charitable giving, or that you made an estimated tax payment, then obviously you definitely do want to keep them. There's actually another category, and these are documents that you should keep forever. So now that we've discussed ones that you should keep for specific time periods, these are important documents that you obviously don't want to discard. These are birth certificates, social security cards, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, adoption papers, death certificates, passports, wills, power of attorneys, any legal filings, military records, retirement and pension plan documents, anything related to like an inheritance, business records. That if you do have a business, obviously you want to keep your EIN, your documents of formation, any like annual reports, any beneficiary forms that you may have. For anything that you've bought or insured, you want to save related documents for at least as long as you own them or until the warranty ends. It obviously won't hurt to keep them around longer, just to be safe. And again, these may fall under things that you want to keep stored electronically. So this includes things like titles to automobiles, real estate deeds, insurance policies, warranty, documentation, and more. Obviously, you want to keep those things and for forever, or as long as, like for example, if you have a car, you obviously want to keep the title for as long as you have the car. Health insurance policies, Medicare eligibility, and obviously any documentation related to them. It's important to keep that as long as the term is. So obviously, as long as your healthcare coverage is active, you should keep those records. If your coverage ends or if you move to another insurance company, you can probably get rid of the old paperwork that you have. And the same is true if you've received any disability or unemployment benefits. Keep the documents, for as long as possible. And again, we'll talk about the electronic storage. Obviously, any employment documents such as contracts, proof of professional certifications that you may have, you should keep those as well. And then if you have any financial records or documents that you're not sure if you need, obviously err on the side of caution and keep those until you're positive that you don't need them anymore. All right, so next topic I wanted to talk about relating to this is how to store them. So you can cut down on your clutter by creating a reliable system for storing the documents, but keeping the documents safe, it's equally important. So you want, we're going to talk first about physical storage. So you want a solution that it's easily accessible. It's protected from theft, protected from damage, and well organized, so that if you actually need to find something, you can. So let's discuss the paper storage options first, and then we'll talk about electronic. So many people, probably the most common place to store documents is in a filing cabinet, although I've seen people store them in plastic bags. So you can use file folders in your filing cabinet. You can organize the paperwork by subject, so what the topic is, by year. Some people like to store things by year, or whatever method you're comfortable with. You don't need the Dewey Decimal System. It's whatever your method is that you're most comfortable with, or you feel that you'll be able to find something when you need it. Instead of a filing cabinet, some people will get the banker's boxes and they'll pile those up. Although for water damage, they're not probably the most recommended option. For the most important documents, a standard filing cabinet might not be enough. So you may want to use a safe. Again, that goes against one that's fireproof, waterproof. Also, it's harder to steal. And then kind of the third level is a safe deposit box, which used to be more popular, but still is popular for storing valuables including documents. Not all banks obviously offer them today. So, but if you prefer keeping your documents off-site from where you live, it can be an option. Now, if you like less paper, and that's what a lot of people now are moving to, there are a lot of digital storage options. So many financial institutions and businesses now let you opt for electronic billing statements, either through email or through an online portal or online account access. So that right then and there, you're going to get less mail, less clutter, less things to save. And, you have to make that decision. Do you want to take it off of the financial institution server and put it on something you can control? Now, for all the physical documents that you have, one project you can do is you can use a scanner, scan them into the computer. Or if you don't have a scanner, our phones are now, capable of scanning. So it's a little bit more difficult. It's obviously and then dependent upon what you're scanning, how many pages you're scanning, but your phone can be a capable scanner as well. So you have an option now. You can once you scan them, you can keep the documents on the computer. Although that's not always efficient. It can, you run out of storage on your computer. Computers break, get viruses. So what a lot of people do is they'll use an external hard drive, which now you have a lot of storage, and it's, you have to basically now secure the hard drive and make sure that is secure versus an actual computer. Another option is to use a flash drive, which is like a smaller version of an external hard drive, although these can get misplaced, they can get damaged. Now, what some people do is they'll use they'll create multiple backups of their electronic documents. They'll use another option is a cloud-based storage. So there's several options on here, such as like ones that are popular like Dropbox, Google Drive, iCloud, Amazon Cloud Drive. Microsoft has its own one. There's a lot of them out there. So some people will store things on like a Microsoft OneDrive or a Google Drive, and then also put them on an external hard drive as well. So that way there's multiple backups, and if there's an issue with one method, you have a backup of it. So one of the benefits of this is not only does it save space, but you can organize them in a file system that's pretty intuitive in terms of how you can access the files, but also they're very searchable. So that's dependent upon how many documents you have. You may be looking for hours through a file cabinet if you're trying to find something. When you put in a couple search words into if they're stored in a cloud system, the document can get pulled up pretty quickly. If you do end up choosing a digital storage solution, make sure you don't need a physical copy of the original document in the future. Now, that means the original versus a copy, right? You can obviously print copy if you need to, but in sometimes like an original social security card or a birth certificate or something, driver's license is needed. And or death certificate, if you need an original, then obviously make sure you have access to originals versus scanning things in, shredding the original, and later down the road it comes out that you need an original versus being able to print a copy of it. All right, so now that we've discussed what documents to keep on file, how long to hold on to them, and what the storage options are, you probably have some documents that you no longer need. So let's discuss how to dispose of these documents. Because probably all of your financial documents contain some level of personal information, you probably can't throw these in the garbage or recycling. Although if you went through an exercise of cleaning things up or storing things electronically, there's probably a lot of envelopes that you would be able to throw out. According to recent data, approximately 33% of Americans have been victims of identity theft. And actually, what's most surprising is that most commonly the victims are aged between 30 and 39 years old. It's kind of like this misconception that seniors are the ones that get hit with identity theft, and in reality, there's no age that it doesn't hit. So it's important to be cognizant of, all right, how do I, if I'm going to dispose of documents, how do I dispose of them properly? Throwing them away with the trash exposes your information to anyone who's really willing to do a little bit of dirty work, who can steal your identity. And, you don't realize sometimes how much information is on these bills. I think bill statements and any other financial documents, I think the companies have gotten a lot better with putting your information on there, for example, like account numbers, A lot of times now they don't even list them on statements, which sometimes is a pain because it can be difficult to find your account number. Sometimes they'll list the last 4 digits of it, but very rarely now will you see like your full account number on a statement. Sometimes they're on there, but a lot of times they're not. You may have like your full legal name, a physical address, a phone number, obviously your account number, routing number, potentially your driver's license number can be on documents, policy numbers, membership information, medical records, signatures, which you don't think, okay, that's not a big deal. But if someone is able to obtain your signature, there's potential like that can be used in identity theft, because sometimes companies will use signature matching to kind of prevent fraud. But if someone has your signature, that's just another step in which they can, set up some kind of identity theft. So the best option is to shred any documents that contain sensitive information. So you can do a couple different ways. You can buy a shredder, although depending upon what type of shredder you buy and how much paper you have to shred, you may be talking a long time of shredding. You can use a professional shredding service. So you'll pay a fee. There's stores like Office Depot, Office Max, Staples, UPS Store, FedEx. They offer shredding services. And then also many cities or towns also hold free paper shredding days for residents of that town. And now that we're into spring, you're seeing a lot of these pop up, every week, every other week, where there's different community shredding events where you basically bring a box. And sometimes they'll take it. Sometimes like the event is sponsored by a charity and they just, you bring your box and you make a charitable donation. But they're definitely out there, so be on the lookout for them. All right, so that wraps up today's episode. If you'd like a condensed version of this episode in the form of a checklist that can help you determine what you need to keep, how long you need to keep it, and what you don't, click the link in the resources section in the show notes, or again, go to bautisfinancial.com/documents. If you have any questions regarding your statements, the documents that you have, you can reach out to us. We'd be happy to discuss your specific situation and what you should keep or for how long. Thanks for tuning into today's episode, and take care and stay organized.
Don't forget to follow the Agent of Wealth on the platform you listen from and leave us a review of the show. We're currently accepting new clients, and if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one consultation with our advisors, please do so at bautisfinancial.com/call.
Thank you for listening to the Agent of Wealth podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Bautis Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial planning and investment advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investments and financial planning.